And we are live. Welcome to this week's episode of the Bullpen Cart Podcast presented by ThunderblogSports.com. I, of course, am Jordy Cannell, the G-Man. And joining me after a week off, it is my man, Greg Piatelli. How are you, my friend?
Jordy, taking days, months, weeks, years off from sports is always a thing that occurs after we lose, after any of our sports teams lose in the championship. And the price of winning so much also comes with its negatives, and those are that we're always in the hunt and we lose. So for as many wins in the finals, we've had almost as many losses, and some heartbreakers, from the Celtics being up and losing to the game that shall not be mentioned, to the other game versus the Giants that was bullshit, to the pass interference call on Rob Gronkowski that wasn't called, to Tom Brady throwing for 500 yards and somehow not winning MVP, and the offense putting up 50 points. And
and then it wasn't 50. It wasn't 50. It was 38 points.
And then, as most recently, two Bruins losses.
34.
Two Bruins losses. One to the Chicago Blackhawks in a shortened season, but still a loss on home ice. And then again, this most recent one again on home ice to a team that not as skilled and very, very dirty, but life goes on.
Just bruisers. They're just a bruising team, kind of like the Bruins when they won it over Vancouver.
Yeah, the Bruins weren't scumbags though, and
shots fired.
Weren't trying to hurt their opponent, but anyway, Jordy, you know how to deal with them. You know how to go on sports hiatus for X amount of time.
Yeah,
and this is really my relapse back into sports this year.
I'll say this. I think your winning percentage in terms of finals in your lifetime is still close to 2/3. I'm sub 500. So, life's pretty good in GTP shoes. Those are Greg's initials for those unaware.
And as I said, Jordy, being the best, you make it there all the time and you win and you lose. And that's, I can't remember the last time that I've been able to go a year without having to watch a finals and be stressed about it, or even a Super Bowl, if 3 straight years.
Yeah, I mean, I can. I'm living it right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's brutal.
It's been 16 months since a finals appearance in Philadelphia.
It's a blessing and a curse, honestly. It's been wild. Anyway, Jordy, let's get into
baseball.
Now that hockey's over, all of the entire city of Boston is turning to the Red Sox and being like, "What the heck? What is going on?
What happened? Thought we won.
I thought we had this wrapped up. What happened? I thought we had the same exact team as last year."
Yeah. The Bruins distracted them from seeing that. Now they're above 500. They're 5 games up. So I mean,
yeah,
I feel like you can't be. You're nowhere but up from here.
Yeah, and playoff start today. They'd be playing the Rays for the wild card. So,
yeah, I mean, that'd actually be a fun one game. See two differing styles go head to head. Potentially an opener if Blake Snell isn't available versus just this team, absolute bombers going at it.
Yeah, I was gonna say
in the shittiest stadium in America. The Tropicana Field, not Fenway Park.
You probably have to go with Snell on that one, though.
No, yeah, you'd have to. I mean, you feel like if you've locked up wild card 1. I mean, this is real good on us talking about a potential theoretical wild card game. But you probably rest him. You probably don't give him his 33rd start, assuming that the rotation goes that way. We're such good theorists, Greg.
We are. Yeah. So, Jordy.
Greg.
Let's get into it. Hot team in the East, or hot team in the American League, for me, will be the Boston Red Sox.
All righty. Okay. Let's talk. Let's talk a little Sox talk.
In their last
Tell me about
it. In their last 7 games, because we're a week-by-week podcast.
Ooh.
They have 6 wins and 1 loss.
Okay.
6 wins, 1 loss. And that loss was in 17 innings last night to the Minnesota Twins, last night being Tuesday night, or whenever you listen. But so 6 wins out of the last 7 days and 1 loss in 17 innings. Honestly, this team is finally hitting the ball as we know they could, and their starting pitching is doing a lot better. The issue still remains the closer. They have about 15 blown saves on the year, and everyone's saying, well, why the heck didn't we sign Craig Kimbrell?
Mm-hmm.
But, that's Dombrowski's MO and whatever. But, it's that's a lot of blown saves and a lot more wins that they've left out there. Because if you, let's say, even you get half of those, you're talking about having 48 wins if you do half of that. So you're in first place.
Yep.
That's a lot of blown saves. It's a lot of pressure, not only on the bullpen but the offense to carry them as much as they have. And the offense has put up the 3rd most amount of runs in all of the American League. So only 1 run behind the Yankees, who's in 2nd. And but yeah, good week for them. Good week for the Red Sox. Unfortunately, the bullpen blowing the save had to ruin the 7 for 7. But I'll take 6 out of 7 any day of the week, heading into the rubber match versus the Twins tonight.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. I mean, a number of different guys on the team are really starting to really tear the cover off the ball and accumulate up home runs, accumulate up doubles. A number of guys that you're seeing slugging percentages at just below, if not above 500, which is that slash line that you want of 3.45 at bat or batting average on base slugging. And yeah, you're right. I mean, the bullpen, I feel like that's the thing that maybe you make one or two moves at the trade deadline, start to see that figure itself out. I feel like Jared and I were talking about this a little bit last week. I feel like we're going to start seeing rumors really start to fly as we hit right around the 4th of July and really start to see the trade deadline evolve as almost as the month of July, since there are no more waiver claims or waiver trades, I should say. So I think it'll be really interesting to see where they go. I don't know what exactly would be the best trade. You could probably answer that better than I could if it's a prospect or if it's maybe you try to dish out a role player that isn't necessarily doing as well as you may have thought, and maybe try to figure it out that way on a little bit of a on the fly type of situation. But yeah, I mean, I think that they're going to continue to figure this thing out, because this is exactly what we talked about at the beginning of the year. That they couldn't possibly be the situation they were. They're now about 5 games above 500. I think probably too, once you get through all the shit of playing in London and all that stuff, I think you're probably gonna get settled in and really start making a push. Because I feel like.
Sorry,
what were you saying?
You feel like what?
I just feel like having that kind of looming around you, that we have to figure this whole thing out. It's something new in baseball. It's not like within football where you kind of know, all right, we have the London game. We know the situation. We can ask guys around the league. No one really knows really what to think of with this whole thing. So I don't know if that's something that's in their head, and they have, divisional games. They have all this stuff. I mean, I don't know what the correct answer is on this, but I mean, I think you're finishing up with the Twins tonight, number 1 team in the AL Central. Then you play Toronto at home, which I feel like that and the White Sox, probably you win 4 of 6 of that, and you're going right into London feeling good, and you figure all that stuff out pretty well. So I feel confident on the Red Sox going forward.
Honestly, Jordy, they're got to trade Blake Swihart to get a prospect in a closer. They traded him already for virtually nothing, and this closer by committee thing is not working.
No, I can speak from experience on that as well.
Yes,
not a smart decision.
not ideal. And the frustrating part, I think, is they're having to start. They're keeping themselves in a position to come back with all this is happening with Eovaldi being hurt virtually the whole year. Stephen Wright, another one of their starting pitchers being out all year, or being out for the beginning part of the year for something like not injury related. But then you had Price with injuries, you had Sale with some injuries and all that, and people, they've been able to get where they are patching together a pitching staff and a starting rotation because their offense is so good and dominant. And then for the bullpen to blow they had a lead twice. They had a 3-1 lead going into the ninth, 3-1 lead going into the ninth, and blew that. And then Mookie Betts hit a home run in the 13th or 14th, and they blew.
I saw that. Yeah, that he had the go ahead hit, and then
they
blew fucked that up. Yeah,
they blew that save, and then it went again. So
that's got to be gut wrenching. Let me ask you this: are people starting to really latch on to Eduardo Rodriguez? I mean, he's had a string of good starts. I mean, a couple. I'm looking at his stats now. A couple that he got a little roughed up on, but are people feeling good about him and where he's going? Because I mean, last start, granted, it's against Baltimore, but he only let up a run. He had a whip of less than 1 on the game, and he's getting more and more strikeouts, it seems, per start. So how do people feel about him?
Yeah, I mean, Erod he's always been sort of the Sox next, the top pitching prospect.
Yeah.
Came up at 20-something. He's the Lester, the Buchholz of the world. He's always been that guy. You hear Cora talk about it. You hear about anyone on the team talk about, Erod, sort of Rodriguez having some of the best stuff on the team. And he just lacks confidence is really what Cora says. And if he pitches lights out how he knows to pitch, then he's one of the best. Now, I interpret it and seeing it, big moments, big time, when he rears back, when he focuses, really unstoppable, has the stuff. Unstoppable when he focuses. The issue is, he's doesn't always have that laser sharp focus that you need to be a 162 game player. He doesn't always have that edge for every single start, which is hard to do, not easy to do. So, and who am I to criticize? Because, I clearly didn't have it either because I didn't make it anywhere. So, the point being,
I had to ask because it seems like he's really starting to smooth things out. And was curious kind of how the fans feel about him. Cause you're right. He's always had that air around him. So I don't know how quick that moves, but just had to ask because it's certainly he's got more strikeouts than innings pitched, which I feel like is always a good thing to look at, especially when it's June 19th and you're the second guy in the team behind Chris Sale, which is basically first on any other staff at 84 strikeouts over 79 innings pitched. So I had to ask and see how the true fans were feeling from the truest of true fans.
Oh yeah, he's got the stuff. He's always had the stuff. So.
Yeah,
that's my hot team of the week. I know we spent we'll loop it into Red Sox talk, but that's
yeah. I mean, you had to combine it there. I'm gonna go with the Yankees would be a good pick, but I don't want to do all AL East teams, so I'm gonna go with the Cleveland Indians on my team, Greg. Winners of 7 of their last 10 games. The Indians are starting to figure it out. I'll just put it that way. They've obviously been hot and are 10 games back in the AL Central, so it's tough to say that they're right back in this thing. But Minnesota's been so good, as we alluded to with everything with the Red Sox. But in the last week they did take 2 or 3 from Minnesota, then 2 or 3 from the Yankees. Or no, that's 2 weeks ago. Excuse me. They swept the Detroit Tigers, and they're about to play a rubber match against the Texas Rangers. But Greg, they've scored double-digit runs twice in the last week. They had an 8-0 win in Detroit to wrap up that series to complete the sweep. Aside from letting up 7 in their only loss since the last show to Texas on Monday night, I mean, the offense has started to figure itself out. The pitching has been great. Their starting staff has been absolutely awesome. And I think they're really – I mean, this is something that we kind of expected and not necessarily in the same boat as the Red Sox of – we thought this was gonna go. We thought it was gonna figure itself out, But, if their offense can continue to catch up to the clip we thought it could be at, we could see a really good race in the AL Central pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, and you almost want to wonder, how long can the Twins last? I know their offense has been better than ever, and all that stuff. So you almost wonder if the Indians have put
What do the
too much
wheels
of it.
come off for
Right.
Minnesota starters?
That's what I mean. But if Minnesota put almost too much of a distance between anyone else in the Central. But yeah, no, that's a great pick, Jordy. That's like, as you mentioned, we've talked about all the time, and a team that sort of always seems to be in the mix and seems to be there and just needs to right the ship. And maybe this stretch is just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, and I mean, they're just getting it from across the lineup recently, but guys like Carlos Santana, who made his return to Cleveland after a year in Philly, he's had an awesome year. He's batting .285, on base percentage over 400 because the guy just draws walks left and right. He has more walks than strikeouts, and he has 50 Ks already. I mean, it's good to see that these guys are starting to figure it out, because it would be crazy to see Cleveland on sort of the outside looking in with the pitching staff that they have and the offense just wildly underperforming in 2019.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting times in Cleveland because I feel like they're always going to be that there, but not really there. They've lost some pieces and they didn't really fill them, right?
Yeah.
Whether it be offensively or even pitching staff wise. So, yeah, good choice, Jordy. National League, why don't you start us off?
All right, for my NL hot team of the week, I'm not going to go with the Braves again, but they would be a pretty solid pick. I'm going to go with the Cardinals. Winners of 6 of the last 10, having themselves, a grand old time. We'll put it that way. Another team that you saw this lineup on paper, you thought they were going to do really well. Started the season off really, really sluggishly. But they come in through last week. They took 3 or 4 from the Mets on the road, which, not necessarily the greatest 3 of 4 from team across the National League, but still a road 4-game series you'd think might be a little crazy to see. But they're putting up runs. Their pitching staff is really locking things down. They had a shutout win over the Marlins on Monday night at home. They got shut out last night, which is something that hopefully is not bucking any sort of trend. But yeah, I think it's something where they're only 2 games above 500. The Brewers and the Cubs are right there. They're only 2.5 games back. The Brewers are 7 games above 500, but their pitching staff is really leaking. Milwaukee's is. St. Louis starts to tighten it up, and Paul Goldschmidt and other guys that we thought would have better years start to have the years we expected. This is going to be that 3-team race that a lot of people were predicting it, and I'd watch out because they could be right there, especially for myself as a Phillies fan, for anybody that's a fan of a non-Dodgers team in the NL West. The Cardinals are coming right back into this thing because last week I didn't count them out too quickly, but I was saying it's Milwaukee Cubs, Atlanta, Philly for 2 through 5 in the NL, and St. Louis has basically put me right in my place in the last 7 days.
Yeah, no, good pick, Jordy. Good pick. I'm not going to touch anything to do with that city. So I'm going.
Yeah, sorry about that. That was not a meant to be any sort of dig.
No. That was a big time dig. So just for that, I was going to choose the San Diego Padres, but just for that, I'm going with the Atlanta Braves.
All right.
And
2 weeks in a row, they're in the hot team circle because I had them last week.
I listened, and I was not going to pick them for that exact reason, but
yeah.
Then
but they deserve it. They are the hottest team in the National League.
When you take 2 out of 3 from the Phillies, you sweep the Pirates 4 games straight. You sweep the Marlins 3 games straight.
Yep.
You really, really deserve to be the hot team multiple weeks. And you overtook the Phillies for first place. And
yep,
Philadelphia is no longer in first. And you wonder if
they have 4 losses on the month of June. which is an
The
absolutely
Braves, yeah.
absurd clip when tomorrow is June 20th. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a team, though, Greg, you mentioned it. They are resilient. They came back Friday night against the Phillies, which we'll talk about at Phillies Talk. But 9-8 win there. They did have a blown late. The loss to the Phillies on Saturday was a ninth inning blown loss or blown save. But in those games against Pittsburgh, you had comebacks galore. You had Ronald Acuna just tearing the absolute cover off the ball. You have 2 straight games where you put up double-digit runs. One against the Phils, one against the Mets. Last night, everything kind of was the opposite of the last week and a half for him, losing 10-2 to the Mets, which you kind of expected some sort of come-to-earth game. But the rubber match tonight, you expect big things out of it, and they're about to hit the road for a long, long road trip. So this is something that if the Braves win and enter a road trip, starting with a pivotal division series against the Nationals, and then you go to the Cubs, and you go back to the Mets. I mean, depending on how theirs goes, I mean, it's entering July 1st. The Braves could be 7 to 10 games up. It could be tied with the Phillies. The Phillies really need to figure their shit out, and we're going to talk about that. But, the Braves, the clip they've been running, especially offensively, which is we talked about it in our preview, is what would these young guys do? And they've really turned it on. And I don't know if it's something that you have to be concerned of going forward into the second half of the year. Will they continue on that? Because I think they're proving us wrong on there. And Freddie Freeman, Josh Donaldson's having an awesome year, but Freddie Freeman's having that MVP type clip that I think you called, Greg. So all props to you. But guys like Nick Markakis continue to show that.
Yeah, no, and I thought this was my hot team of the week, so I will.
I'm sorry. I had a lot of thoughts after watching them. Watching them and the Phillies go toe to toe and then really spanking the shit out of them on Sunday. I have a lot of thoughts to speak about Atlanta.
No, not at all. No, so I agree. Yeah, I did nail the Freeman thing. But Ronald Acuna Jr. batting leadoff, sort of the Mookie Betts, the Jose Altuve role, has really year 2 just been an absolute.
Oh yeah,
absolute stud. 301.
What did we call him when we didn't notice the Enya? Did we call him Acuna?
I'm not sure, but I also nailed him as the prophet for the Rookie of the Year last year. But
you did.
Neither here nor there.
A little big that you're still the prophet.
Yes.
Inside joke there. Sorry, folks.
Honestly, Jordy, it's the ERA is somewhat low for their staff, and
after starting cold, I mean, their pitching staff was not good to start the year.
Yeah, I mean, and Mike Fulton-Nevitz, right?
Fulton-Nevitz.
Yeah, he was one of their aces last year. Struggled this year, starting to turn it around, and then now they're adding Keuchel to the rotation, which comes at a good time because Sean Newcomb just got placed in the IL. So
yeah, he got nailed. He was the guy who got nailed with the comebacker, and now he's getting put on retroactively with a concussion, as you probably would have expected.
Yeah, so
scary moment in that game.
Oh, for sure.
It live, yeah, it was.
Sure. So I mean, them adding a guy like Keuchel and that good of a rotation, just being that much better, is pretty scary stuff. And if I'm anyone else in the East, I'm a little worried.
Worth mentioning too, Julio Teheran, having a really nice bounce back year after kind of a weird 2018. He has an opponent's batting average of close to the Mendoza line. ERA 3.40, but I mean ERA at this point, and especially in a division like the East, where the Phillies can go off at any time, the Mets can go off at any time, the Nationals even can go off at any time. It's I'd say that's pretty solid.
Yeah, no, and that's my hot team of the week.
Yeah.
So
before we go to cold teams, you did mention St. Louis, or not St. Louis, San Diego, and that would have been an awesome pick. Worth noting, them and the Rockies set a major league record for runs in a single series. Absolute slugfest. They are right now they're into the top of the ninth. Kind of concerning they haven't closed that game out yet, but 8-7 they're currently leading. And last night they put a ton of runs up. So they're really seeing the ball well. Just their pitching staff is just not good, and by any stretch of the imagination. So also a good backup pick by you, Greg.
Yeah, no, it was gonna be my first pick, but
the audible. I like the audible at the line. Very TB12 method.
Yeah, I mean, I had to. Someone threw some shade, so I had to throw some back.
Oh man. Well, let's go to cold teams. You want to start in the NL, or since we're here, or do you want to go AL first?
Let's see. Let's go NL.
Alrighty. I'm gonna go with the Chicago Cubs, who lost 6 of their last 10 games in the last 10 days. The Cubbies still right in it in the NL Central. Reason for going for them as the cold team is just sort of a missed opportunity from them. They've had kind of this up and down week where they go out to LA, they lose 3 of 4 games. They come back, they're facing their crosstown opponent after a road trip where you're also out in Colorado and you only pull out 2 wins there. And you drop this game against the White Sox that you would have thought the Cubs could have pulled out, and they really just weren't seeing the ball well. And I think it's a little bit concerning when over the last 7 days or that they put up a 10-run spot against Colorado, but every other game in the week, 5 runs is the highest you put up. A 2-1 win is your only other win on the week in LA. Offensively, I think that's where the Cubs live and breathe. Last night, you only amassed 6 hits, and that 1 run being a Kyle Schwarber first inning home run. They also have some bullpen troubles as well, so I think they will be active on the trade deadline. But it's something where the Cubbies they're getting ready for about a 10-game homestand. They have the Mets coming in for a 4-game set starting tomorrow. Then they have the Braves coming in. We mentioned that before when we were talking about Atlanta. So this is a pivotal time where they have these home games, friendly confines of Wrigley. You expect to see them win some of these games, especially against the White Sox, where their offense should be performing. So it'll be the Mets series, probably more so than Atlanta. Atlanta should be good, but the Mets series might be a good crux of where we might be seeing the Cubs going into July.
Yeah, Jordy, it's a good pick, and it's especially in a division that's so tight and with only 8 games separating the top from the bottom from all 5 teams in the division. Any sort of lull, any sort of negative stretch, really, maybe not put you out of it, but certainly makes the hill that much higher to climb, or that much harder to climb. Great pick. I'm going to save my cold team because it's the Phillies, so we're going to save it for cold talk.
Okay, all right.
Little retroactive retribution towards you.
Hey, I mean, I would agree with the Phillies. If I don't like to pick Philly for teams or for players, just because we talk about them enough anyway. That's a great pick as well, because the Phillies certainly there's a lot that we should be talking about. The only thing that I would argue is that picking another team is that the Phillies also, because they were rained out so much against Washington, they've only played 4 games since the last show. But including one today, it finally stopped raining in Washington. But that's a good pick there. We'll talk about the Phillies in a few minutes. Let's go over to the AL. I'll start with you.
Thanks, Jordy. I'm going with the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, that's the pick.
Yeah, I mean, with the Red Sox playing hotter than ever and the Yankees only getting even more offense with their recent acquisitions and Juan Carlo coming back, all that stuff, now is not the time for the Rays bats as well as pitching to sort of lose its magic and luster, if you will. That being said, they got swept by the Yankees, led up a cycle and 2 out of 3 versus the Angels.
Yep. And
then lost 2 out of 3 of the Athletics. So it's been a
historic cycle too.
Yeah.
First ever by a Japanese-born player in Shohei.
Shohei, guy who's had Tommy John and wasn't even supposed to play this year, but because he can do both bat and pitch, guess what? He's back. So now is not the time, certainly, and Snell, their ace, ends up getting pulled not even 1 out into his start versus the Yankees, his most recent start. So as I mentioned, now is not the time, as with the Red Sox and Yankees both heating up, especially the Yankees. really starting to pull away from everyone and adding in Encarnacion and that little league field that they have. Just going to mash even more home runs.
Judge getting healthy too.
Yeah. And Juan Carlo getting healthy. They might break the record for home runs they broke last year, but it didn't help them win the World Series. So you never know. But for the Rays, I'd be more worried about the Red Sox at this point, despite owning the Red Sox to this point in the season. But it has to be the Rays for me.
Yeah, and it's worth noting too. They go out to Oakland. Oakland would have been a sleeper pick for Hot Team of the Week. That's going to be a tough series for them, especially because Snell probably won't start in that series. Right? He started today. And you mentioned he got pulled with only one out in. I'm just pulling up the box score now. So he probably won't start. You think they're going to try maybe an opener strategy. You'll see how that works against them and how all that's going to happen. Then they go to Minnesota. So just a really tough stretch of 7 road games. So we'll see how this all goes. I mean, I think seeing them against teams in the East, you mentioned it, they've played well against the Red Sox, but the Red Sox are trending upward. Tampa Bay, I mean, they're still 8 games above 500. And I would expect to see them still finish the season above 500. Rays Watch 2019 is in effect, I think, still, but this is an interesting moment if you're a Rays fan to look out for, because this could be something where we see 2 and 3 flop. And if the Yankees' health, Giancarlo goes 0 for 4 last night. So if he doesn't really mesh in right away, the Red Sox could storm their way, make the AL East a chase, but Tampa Bay on the road, that's concerning there.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you said it best. The Red Sox could make a charge, and the Yankees don't look like they're conceding anything anytime soon. So
no, and it's worth noting too. So just to mention the Yankees milestone, CC Sabathia won his 250th game earlier this week against Tampa. So good on him. That's awesome, especially after all the concerns of him with the alcoholism and all that stuff. So good on him to accomplish a milestone like that. I feel like we don't really hear a lot of guys get to that point anymore. So
I mean,
good
if you're
with
gonna drop alcoholism, you can't just slander a guy's name without giving any backstory.
Wasn't it alcoholism that he had to go? He shut himself down a couple years ago.
The first thing on Twitter is going to be Thunderblog bashes CC and
no. I'm
taken to the woodshed here.
Whoa!
It was not me.
We went viral. Wasn't that why he should? Didn't he shut himself down in 2015 because of alcoholism?
Honestly, Jordy, the second he left the Brewers and joined the scumbag team in New York, I honestly stopped paying attention to him.
You mean his hot moment in Milwaukee?
His
ended with a Shane Victorino grand slam in the NLDS in 2008.
After he got traded. You're welcome. I teed you up for that one. Yeah, after he got traded and pitched his arm out. Anyway,
yeah, he pitched what, like 4 starts in 12 days or something like that.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah,
let's do the Phillies.
Yeah, let's do Phillies talk. Yeah, so I mentioned it. Not a lot of Phillies games to discuss, but a couple pivotal ones. Only been 4 since the last show Thursday night. Mentioned it when we were talking about the Braves. Friday night, the Phillies blew a 5-run lead that they had in the 7th inning to fall to Atlanta 9-8. I believe my friend Matt Adams got a good video of me getting very upset about it at the bar Friday night. It's a game the Phillies let slip through their fingers. I think the baseball gods gifted them the win Saturday night, where they came back with a 2-run Cesar Hernandez hit. And then Sunday, they got absolutely blown out by Atlanta, losing 15-1. Monday and Tuesday night were rained out for the Phils and the Washington Nationals. Earlier today, Wednesday afternoon, they fell 6-2 to the Nats. They are currently starting the nightcap of the day-night doubleheader. Greg, the real storyline on this: A, Scott Kingery remains hot. B, injuries are really hitting the Phillies left and right, because Jay Bruce, scary moment. He left Saturday's game, hamstring injury. He's in the lineup tonight, so he did not hit the DL. JT Realmuto hit a foul ball off his foot. He was out of the lineup Sunday. and returned to the lineup. I believe he's returned to the lineup. I have to check the Phillies starting lineups tonight. So you're starting to see some injuries here, some injuries there, but you're starting to also see guys get healthy. Roman Quinn, a guy you and I talked about a lot for the brief stint that he was healthy last year, has returned to the Phillies lineup. He's playing center field. Scott Kingery moves over to third base. The versatile infielder. He was a career minor leagues, or for as long as he was in the minors, second baseman. Started to really hit it well, but now you have potentially one of the fastest guys be on the Phillies. Play center field for him, so natural center fielder. If they can get healthier and start to figure some of their stuff out with the guys in the back end of the bullpen who have been banged up, we talked about a little bit. The closer by committee, which has just been Gabe the Babe's mantra, has not really panned out. But health in a lot of the pitching arms of the concern, as well as the fact that they do not have a fifth starter. They've gone through 3 different guys, all of whom were the first 3 pitchers when they tried an opening strategy on Sunday in the 15-1 loss to Atlanta. And the fact that Atlanta picked up Dallas Keuchel stings a little bit, but we'll see how all that goes. There's a lot to digest with the Phillies right now, and in sort of an interesting moment in the 2019 season.
Yeah, Jordy, and to me, I feel like this Phillies team, with all the hype and everything coming into the year, injuries notwithstanding, they always lacked depth.
Yep.
Right, and they were always going to need to have more from.
It's why they traded for Jay Bruce.
Yeah, exactly, and they're always going to need to have more than just their starters do something and their bench players and all this stuff, and I mean, you could argue that it gave the Babes fault for playing McCutchen so much in the beginning of the year, because that was a waste of time. And
yeah, I mean, the argument, though, think about it this way. The other outfielders they had on the team were Aaron Altair, who they put on waivers and has since gone to San Francisco. Then it was Nick Williams, who is currently batting 173. So, and granted, he's also a very quick batter. Would have been great. McCutchen, though, I mean, he started off the season hot. He obviously led the year off with a home run. And he's a great fielder. Probably a little bit better than Nick Williams, especially in left field where they were playing McCutchen mostly. Nick Williams plays a lot of right field, which his job was taken by signing Bryce Harper. So I'm not arguing against playing McCutchen as much as you did. Maybe try to platoon him with Williams, but the problem with Nick Williams is that you can only really bat him against righty starters. So McCutchen just had a little more versatility behind the plate, and you saw that he was batting 250 and was on base at 378, and that's a pretty nice clip. And it's a huge bummer that he got hurt when he did. But I wouldn't necessarily say he got overplayed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like they had guys last year who did well. Their outfielders were. Well,
one of the outfielders is on the administrative leave and may never play another game for the Phillies. And if the evidence behind him is true,
but at the time that wasn't the case.
Sure. He also, though, before all that shit, was batting 222, only had 1 homer and 16 ribbies. So it's not like he was the him doing the stuff that the evidence is showing was the reason why the Phillies offense felt shit.
Yeah,
he was underperforming at the time, and he was at the end of last year too with the lack of hustle.
So so big fix outside of lack of depth. I mean, it's not
it's health. I mean, it is. Oh, it's definitely bullpen too.
Oh, but like at the same time, let's say they have 2 starters, maybe 3. You could argue, who are decent.
They have 4 starters. They have Aaron Nola, Eflin, Arrieta, and Pavetta, who's looked better since he came back up. But then you have Velasquez, Eichhoff, and Cole Irvin, who have all been the 5th starter. Velasquez certainly belongs in the bullpen. Eichhoff should be a starter, but he's been terrible and is hurt right now. He's back on the DL or the IL. So
like I said, you have 2 to 3 starters max, and lack of depth there, lack of depth in the bullpen besides Sir Anthony. And
I mean, Sir Anthony's been not so great this year too, and he's hurt. So it's just any big name that you're throwing out there. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you, but it's him, David Robertson, who is your big money bullpen guy. Tommy Hunter's apparently starting a rehab assignment. So are a number of other guys, and hopefully they look good when they come back. Hopefully they're fully healthy, because nothing would make me happier to see Pat Neshek, your favorite guy with the submarine arm, be outstanding, because that's what the Phillies need. I mean, they should have locked up Friday. And
Adam Morgan has been pitching really well,
and he's hurt.
That's what I'm saying. Is like
it's just there's a lot of injuries, and I'm sure once they're healthy, it's all going to be fine. And it's not time to hit the panic button by any stretch of the imagination. But the injury bug has struck the Philadelphia Phillies hard. I'll just say that. And I'm not saying that's the reason why they're cold. Their offense should be way better than they have been, especially in the month of June. I mean, you put up 3 runs in your last games your last 2 games comparatively to 21 runs allowed. And aside from Friday night, where you put up the amount of runs that you do, and with a bullpen loss notwithstanding. But think about it this way: they have a homestand against the Reds and the Diamondbacks. 4 runs, 3 runs, 8 runs. Aside from a shitty pitching night, that's a win. 7-0. I mean, that's the offense. The offense needs to step up. I think that's probably the biggest thing to look at and hope for, because the bigger names, I mean, once they start to get hot, I think it's going to start to help fix itself. But the offense, and it's not just Bryce Harper, it's not just Real Muto when he's healthy, it's not just Rhys Hoskins, it's everybody, because these were guys at the beginning of the year when they were clicking, that top to bottom, they were looking good. And now the bottom of the order is not what it was on April 1st, but it's, you could still argue that these guys can get it done and figure this thing out.
Yeah. I mean, first baseman, who would you rather have, Hosmer or Rhys?
Hosmer or Rhys?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for right now, or for the long haul, because I think I'd go Rhys either way. I think he's a little bit better of a fielder, but Hosmer's power numbers have been better than Rhys so far. I think Rhys at his best is better
for this season. Yeah,
I think Rhys at his best is better. Hosmer's been outperforming him though.
Okay,
I love Rhys Hoskins, so you can't make me pick an answer. That's not objective. That's subjective.
No, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Right.
And Real Muto was in the lineup today, so he's back. He's back healthy as well. I had said I was going to check that, but I mean, Cesar Hernandez, he went 2 for 4 today. Roman Quinn 0 for 4 to start for today. So, or in today's afternoon game. But I mean, we're going to see how this all goes. I mean, when Sean Rodriguez is floating between third base, left field, sometimes center field, and he's a guy that was supposed to be this end of the bench guy, and at the beginning of the year wasn't even on the team. We're just really seeing it there. I mean, Adam Hazley, who was supposed to be one of their top outfield prospects, you were talking about that before. He's been hurt for a bit, and hopefully is starting to get healthy, because he was great for the 3 days that he was up with the team. Really shitty start to your career when you see that happen. So, I mean, it's health and a lack of offense are probably the two big storylines. I would not forget about the bullpen issues, because those certainly need to fix themselves as well. But yeah, it's an intriguing time if you're a Philadelphia Phillies fan like myself, Greg.
I'm so over talking about the Phillies.
Let's go to players. Let's do it. Hot player of the week, NL or AL, Greg? Where do you want to start?
Let's get out of the National League. Let's go to the American League.
All right. You want to start, or do you want me to?
I can start.
All right, who you got?
Whit Merrifield.
Damn it.
Kansas City Royals.
Damn it. Love this guy, and I'm glad you picked him. What a week for him.
Thank you, Jordy.
Break it down.
9 runs scored, 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, and a .419 batting average. 13 for 31 for a Kansas City team that basement, but having a great week, and at this point, playing for pride. Might have played themselves out of the playoffs, but definitely in the basement, playing for pride. But he certainly, by all means, had a great week.
Do you think this is a guy we're going to start hearing his name floating around in terms of trade talk?
It might be.
I mean, he's 30. He's had a couple good years behind him now. He's a stolen base threat. He doesn't strike out a ton, although this year it's a lot more than the clips he has been on before, or than he has been on in the past. Actually, scratch that. I'm looking at his career in reverse. He had over 100 last year, but still, he gets on base a ton. He gets RBIs. He's on a pace right now to out RBI himself. Not a career year, but he's on pace for 20 homers, which you'll still take. Over 30 doubles. He's on pace for over 100 runs scored, which would be a career high for him. I would think any team in an over 300 batting average, I think any team would be happy to get this guy on their squad. I don't know what you necessarily need to trade to Kansas City to get that job done, but if you're looking for a guy up the middle or in the outfield, this guy can play that too. I think it's a good call.
Are you surprised that he is 5th amongst American League second basemen right now for All-Star voting?
No, because he plays in Kansas City, so his name's not really out there. Who are the other 4 in front of him?
Tommy La Stella from the Angels. Jose Altuve.
Understandable. He's had an awesome year. Jose Altuve, big name, although he's been hurt for a while, but still understandable.
DJ LeMahieu. Jonathan.
Yeah, okay. That's a Yankee player, so he's going to be up there, and he's also having a good year.
Jonathan Scope.
Also, yeah, and he's having a great year too. So I mean, all of those comparatively to a guy who plays for Kansas City, it makes sense.
Who among the Phillies would you think is besides?
Is it still Cesar Hernandez?
Besides,
I have not looked at Phillies rankings, but is it still Cesar?
No, but he's 5th among second basemen. But who would you argue, in your opinion, Bryce Harper notwithstanding, who
Gene Segura?
He has the best chance, you think?
To make the team. I'm sorry, I thought you meant who's the most deserving.
No, who's like who's in first?
To start or just to make the team in general?
Start.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Just so we're clear, Bryce Harper is 10th among.
Yeah, Bryce Harper isn't starting. I mean, there's a lot of good outfielders in the NL this year.
Mookie Betts is 5th, which is bullshit.
I'd say either Real Muto or Segura.
So Segura, we just mentioned. Real Muto, you hate to see it. 4th.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, he's just on the outside looking in. I knew that. You said who has the best shot to start. So I had to go that way.
Good call.
Yeah.
Reese 6th among first basemen. Sorry, who's your player of the week of American League? What do you got?
My hot player, I'm going to go with Jake Bauers, the Cleveland Indians. Yeah, this guy having himself a week, buddy. He is batting .462. That's 12 hits over 26 at bats, 4 runs scored, couple homers, 5 ribbies. Really coming onto the scene well with a Cleveland team we were talking about. That's having himself a week, and I think he's building himself up pretty well. He was batting pretty low through to start the year, like much of the Cleveland Indians were. But earlier this week, a week ago, he was batting .209. He's brought that all the way up to .236. That is a 27-point increase. Big math guy here. And now slugging over 400. So I mean, he's slowly but surely bringing himself up, and I think the Indians got to be happy with that. They got to be happy with how their team is doing, like we mentioned. So good on him. It's his second year in the league. He played for the Rays last year, batted .201. So this is the guy the Indians got for cheap, and he's close to surpassing his home run count from last year. He had 11 and 48 ribbies. He's got 9 already on this year, 27 ribbies. So good for Bauers, not to be confused with their pitcher Trevor Bauer. And you know, if he's the spark that gets it going for him, that's a nice little sign because Lindor, Ramirez, all these different guys could really start to pop for the Cleveland Indians.
Yeah, no, I like it. Good choice. Nationally, I'll let you go first since I went first in American League.
All right, so I'm gonna go with Charlie Blackmon, who's batting 576, 19 for 33 in the last week, 11 runs scored, 4 homers, 10 RBI. He did not walk at all, which is a little surprising to see out of this guy, but he's seeing the ball really well. Only four strikeouts, a triple, a couple doubles in there. Colorado, we mentioned with San Diego, had an awesome series where they set the major league record for runs in a single series. So good for Blackmon, good for Colorado. It's a team that we're hoping to talk about more as this year has gone on. They're not firmly, but they've put themselves into second place in the NL West, and just like with St. Louis, have put themselves in a position in the wild card conversation. Right now, they're only a game behind the Phillies for wild card 2. And yeah, I mean they are doing great considering that they're in a division with the Dodgers. Their runs against not awesome, but their offense is really clicking. And Blackmon, like a lot of other guys on that team, is helping to lead the way with it, like a Trevor Story. But Blackmon, got to be your pick.
Yeah, great pick. I was going to choose him as well if you did not. Instead, I'm going to go controversial. I'm going with Manny Machado.
All right. And we can talk about his suspension, too. That's great synergy, Greg.
Thank you, Jordy. The suspension notwithstanding, batted 500 this week, last 7 days, 9 RBIs, 4 home runs, 13 runs scored in 7 days. I mean, have yourself a week and you're top of the news stories because you got yourself suspended. And normally it's playing versus Red Sox and Yankees, but now he's out west. He has to do something crazy to get his name in the paper. And what does he do, Jordy? He goes out.
I was going to have you. Yeah, break down the suspension and what happened.
He goes out and pisses off all and any umpires in the world, and so he got upset about balls and strikes, threw his helmet hit the ground, hit the umpire. You know, he, as players do, up in the umpire's faces, blah blah blah. Continued to yell at them from the dugout. Nothing new from Machado. He's one of those guys always complaining. Look at the baby. Look at the baby. You know, he's always been that way.
Old school quote there.
Yeah, thank you. He's always been that way. He's always been a little, but when you have the entire umpires union, basically, you know, coming out to defend their brethren and really say this guy doesn't belong anywhere in the game, really not the best look. So, did I miss something, Jordy?
No, yeah, I mean, the umpires are very upset that they only got a game. Their union really trying to get into the forefront of this, talk a little bit more about respect for umpires. And you know what? I mean, like when you're throwing a fit like that, you mentioned that this isn't a first-time occurrence. He's a repeat offender of, I don't think he controls the way that his helmet bounces, but he's a repeat offender of kind of doing these slimy little things. You mentioned the fits. There's obviously the cleating that he's been caught doing a number of different times. I mean, you'd think that Major League Baseball would kind of step in and tell them. Granted, he's a big name, but you know he went to San Diego, and it's a team who, granted, they've been really hot, but you gotta put your foot down somewhere and set a precedent. Tell them we can't have this behavior. If you're going to be this big name and this big role model to kids, we can't have you flipping out and throwing helmets, throwing bats, doing any of this shit, especially the cleating, which we haven't seen it all this year. But obviously, there was Game 7 last year. The reason Greg hates him with all the stuff with Pedroia. I'm surprised it was only a game. I don't know if it's something where baseball thinks that if they get him back on the lineup quicker, that you know you're putting more eyes on trying to put more eyes on West Coast baseball. I don't know what the thought process was, but you know I thought it should have been maybe 2 or 3. Get him out for a series and really put an impact on him.
I mean, it's so tough because, you know, trying to relate it to other sports, you know, it's the I don't want to say Brad Marchand because Marchand isn't a dickhead to refs. It's you know,
he just trolls other players.
yeah.
What who was it that checked the ref and got suspended for like 10 games?
Yeah,
Remember that?
Yeah, it was a defenseman.
It wasn't Dennis. What was it? Chris Weidman?
Might have been. Yeah.
Yeah. But still, that's an 82 game series, 82 game season. That's over 10% of the year. I mean, I'm not saying this guy should get suspended for 20 games because he didn't actually injure anybody.
Right.
But still one game in a 162 game season. You always talk about the 4 games for football, or 2 games or whatever it is, and different suspensions. We don't need to jump into that of why or make any sort of comparisons. But one game over 162, that's less than half a percentage point, or it's close to it. So I don't know. I feel like it should have been more, but great pick there. He deserved his, the stats speak for themselves. But let's go over Roy Hobbs pitcher of the week. Greg, we'll start in the NL. Who do you got for yours?
Last 7 days, best pitcher. I mean, Jordan Yamamoto from the Miami Marlins. Jordy.
Yes.
Surprise.
First 2 starts ever in the last 7 days.
Yeah, rookie, right?
Yep, rookie.
Yeah. Unreal. 14 inning pitch in 2 games, 2 wins, 12 strikeouts, 0 earned runs with a .64 whip. I mean, they're a team that builds prospects.
This guy deals.
Yeah, exactly. A team that has built prospects and prospects on top of prospects, and maybe Jeter knows what he's doing, but it's good for him. Great week, and I think I mean, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but what could have been if wait.
Yeah.
And he's from Hawaii, which is even cooler.
Yeah, it is. It's a really cool story seeing him. His first 2 starts, absolutely dealing. Awesome start last night in St. Louis for him, where the Marlins won 6-0. I think we were talking about before.
So,
great pick. I'm gonna go.
Did he play on any of those
the League World Series teams?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. You want to research that while I give my pick?
Sure.
All right. I'm gonna go with Cole Hamels. Chicago Cubs 1-0 in the last week, 14 innings pitched, 3 walks, 17 strikeouts, only 1 run earned. So he got a no decision in one of his starts there, but just a good week out of him. And the Cubbies, we talked about it. Their starting staff has been up and down, but Hamels has really been this under the radar pick, I think, of guys that they've acquired, and he's been nothing but stellar for the Cubs, and he's continued that into 2019. A little bit of a slow start, like any Cubs pitcher had. We talked about it a lot right at the beginning of the season, but got to go with Cole Hamels. DeGrom could have been another good pick as well, but he had himself a little bit of a rough week. He did have 18 strikeouts, but I'm gonna go with Hamels for my pick.
I like it, Jordy. I feel like honorable mention Homer Bay. Oh no, sorry, that's American League.
Yeah, he's American League. He's longtime Cincinnati Red though, so understandable.
Yeah, honorable. Yeah, okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Zach Greinke also threw a great game this week. But anyway,
yep. A good honorable mention of a bullpen guy would be Kirby Yates, who had 3 saves. One he came in that was non-save situation. He let up a run. But 6 strikeouts over 4 innings. Gotta love it there. If you have a bullpen guy in the National League, I will save another honorable mention as well.
I mean, it's tough because a guy like Will Smith, 4 innings pitched, 4 saves, 7 Ks. Will Smith from San Francisco Giants, but he also gave up runs. So for me,
he let up a homer, but he still got the save. He still converted it.
To be the best pitcher, to me, you have to really be ERA, strikeouts, all that. And
yeah, it throws you off a little bit because you see the 2.25, but you got same with Kirby Yates. They both just let up 1 home run, which is why I let it slide. Yates had the lower whip, so that's why I went with him over Will Smith.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. My standards are better than yours. I get it. Yeah, no, I mean, if you want to say your other honorable mention, I'm good to go for
For AL?
Yeah.
Yeah. Give it to me.
Weird. I do have an AL bullpen guy. Matt Barnes from the Boston Red Sox. 4 innings pitched, 1 win, 9 strikeouts, 2 holds, 0 earned runs. Great week from him, from a team that's streaking in the right direction. Could have gone with so many other people, and I'll give out some other honorable mentions moving forward. But for me, Matt Barnes, bullpen guy, but also pitcher of the week.
Yeah, I'm going to go for an AL bullpen guy. I'm going to go with Joe Jimenez from the Tigers. 3 appearances, 2 holds. He was scoreless over his 3 innings, Greg, so it qualifies on the Greg scale. A whip of .67. He only let up 1 hit of the 10 batters, or 11 actually, but 10 at bats because he walked a guy. So opponent's batting average of 100. But my starter that I'm going to go with in the AL, I am taking. I just had him. Where was he? Jose Barrios of the Minnesota Twins. He actually went 0-1 in a week that he let up 2 runs. Kind of a crazy week for him. 14.2 innings pitched. Still a sub 1 whip. He let up 12 hits and walked 2 guys. But you mentioned the one run, 2 earned run, or 1 home run, 2 earned runs. Kind of a weird week for him on seeing the 0-1 on the record, but he's doing everything he can. Minnesota a little bit streaky on their offense, on an offense that's normally good.
I love it. I'm going Homer Bailey, Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, great pick.
That's my he's my honorable mention. My number 1 pitcher of the week was Matt Barnes from the Red Sox, as mentioned. Homer Bailey, 13.2 innings pitched, 2 wins, 2 starts, 12 Ks, 0 earned runs. Unreal week from him. Good for him. And Trevor Bauer, complete game, 8 Ks, 0 earned runs. Another honorable mention. I believe Trevor Bauer's first ever complete game shutout.
Oh, did not know that.
Yeah.
All right, well, Greg, let's move over. Fan favorite segments, some stadium snacks. Do you have any stadium snacks for us?
Trying to think of what I did. See if I've gone any games recently.
I'll give you mine quick while you rack your brain. SeatGeek released a stadium guide in terms of rankings, and Citizens Bank Park came in at number 2 for food. So props to CBP. We talk about all their food a lot of different variety, very vegan friendly too. So very inclusive that way. So very excited. The Phillies are hosting the Marlins this week. We didn't mention that in Phillies talk. So potentially try to get a solid recommendation for you guys for next week. But had to talk about it a little bit there. Had to pump my own tires a little bit. And then I have another one, but I'll let you go with yours because mine's a little bit of a hybrid of a bleacher creature and a stadium snack.
All right, awesome. So this was what they did last night in watching the Red Sox. You go 17 innings, they run out of things to talk about. Sideline Reporter found this and reported on this and thought this was news and noteworthy. The Minnesota Twins have a peanut butter and bacon sandwich.
Ooh.
Peanut butter and bacon sandwich.
Peanut butter and bacon is a great sandwich.
On a toasted sourdough bread.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't eaten dinner yet. This is... You
yeah,
might have to call this thing early, Craig.
I know, right? Early for us. They call it, the announcers were back and forth on it on obviously on Nessim, but I thought it sounded good. And if I ever go to Minnesota, unlikely, but if I ever go to Minnesota.
Never had it before? Never had a PB&B?
I honestly can say I don't think I have, honestly.
Yeah. Got to try it. So, Greg, I don't know if you saw this. It was all over the internets this weekend, but there was a guy at I believe it was a minor league game with an industrial jar of mayonnaise. So this is a hybrid stadium snack and bleacher creature because he was doing it in the outfield. And he's just standing up, living his best life. Great tank top, ultimate farmer tan if I've ever seen one. And he's just chowing down on mayo in his outfield seat. So, Greg, what are your thoughts on mayonnaise, just mayonnaise in general and at a baseball game, and the style of this guy, because he was just living his life.
I mean, I personally have been known to put mayonnaise on sandwiches and etc., and I don't mind it at all.
Yeah.
But I can never imagine just eating straight mayonnaise by itself.
In the sun.
I'm hoping it's one of two things. One, it's a Dwight Schrute situation, whereas he's got a bunker somewhere. He's got to eat all this stuff before it fades and all that.
I hope so too, because it's a giant jar of mayonnaise.
Yeah, that's my one. Or two, they'll throw back to the office there. But number two, I would hope it is not mayonnaise and maybe ice cream, and he's put it in there to get on.
Put it in a mayo jar. Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
The best part about the video is there's a little girl in the background. This guy's just on TV. And this little girl is just waving the whole time. She's happy. This guy is happy. So at least there's some sort of a happy story out of this thing.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of a crazy story, but that takes us right into Bleacher Creatures. Do you have one?
I mean, there's the guy who got the baseball with one hand and
chugged the beer.
Chugged the beer with the other, but I don't know if you saw this. Completely different sport. Somewhere in a tennis match, a guy serving loses his racket. The other player volleys it to him, and the guy who served it initially lost his racket, fields it like a soccer player, off the chest, down to his feet, kicks it up a couple times, and then kicks it over the net. And the other player, then does the same thing off the head, dribble, kicks it over. And then the original guy tries a bicycle kick and ends up missing it. But it went on for 3 or 4 volleys, serves, all that stuff, or 3 or 4 different 5 times over the net until eventually the bicycle kick failed. But it was pretty funny, pretty good moment. It's all over the social medias if you don't know.
Interesting. All right, so my other one I got player Bleacher Creature, but it's Royals catcher Martin Maldonado wore a tie over his catcher's equipment on Father's Day.
Sorry, repeat it.
He wore a tie over his chest protector. So he's just got a loose tie flapping around. Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. I figured that would be against a code violation or something, but I guess not.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Someone had a good tweet about that of if this is the NFL, he'd be suspended or fined $1 million. So there's some good banter on Twitter in light of this. A lot of it was aimed at Roger Goodell, which I feel like you would appreciate.
Yeah, not surprising.
Yeah,
not surprising.
Anything else we missed in the world of baseball? I do have one that just popped up. But any of you think we missed?
I mean, the David Ortiz saga.
Oh yeah, he's been moved to, his status is now good, right?
Yeah, but all the rumors out there from they range from he was involved in some love triangle with a drug lord in Dominican to he wasn't the actual target. It was one of his buddies who's involved with the drug lord and not him. And so the rumors are swirling. And ironically enough, the person who keeps giving updates is his wife. So if it is a affair related thing, then
yeah, it's
a little awkward. But recover to him, Ortiz. The thing that frustrates me is they did like moment of silence and all this other nonsense at Fenway, and it's like he's not dead. I understand it's critical condition and all that, and prayers, 100% prayers to him. And Dave Ortiz meant so much to the city and means so much to the city. So certainly wish him the best, but there's a difference between memorializing someone because they've passed and giving someone prayers. And that's the only gripe, but I would say thoughts and prayers out to T's and P's.
Oh yeah, T's and P's.
What do you got?
The two I have, we forgot to mention the Max Scherzer. He broke his nose in bunting practice the other day. And seeing a picture of him now, he's starting tonight against the Phillies, which is classic Scherzer. Not going to miss a start for anything. I feel like you could cut off his pitching arm and he'd still figure out a way to start his next game. But he has this giant black eye over his right eye. I'm looking at a picture now. The other Greg, though, that we didn't mention was the Matt Carpenter bunt through the shift. This is something we've talked about before. Did you see this?
I did see this, and it reminded me. David Ortiz did something similar. Obviously, he doesn't have the speed of Matt Carpenter, but why don't you explain it? Normally, when teams shift, they at least leave one guy on one side of the field, but this was not the case, correct?
And if it was something where Carpenter put it right up the third baseline, and he ended up getting a double out of it, and it kind of snuck it right by him, and it's sort of it makes everybody who's argued against the shift or argued against banning shifts is saying, "Oh, just bunt it. Oh, just do this." It really builds into that argument, and I mean, Carpenter figured it out. He's a quick guy, obviously, by being able to get to second base on a ball that barely left the infield. Pretty awesome video if you haven't seen it, because it's this. You see him put it down, you figure, all right, he's gonna get a single, and you watch the ball obviously go out of the infield. Then all of a sudden the camera just pans right, and he's there. He has a stand-up double. It's incredible.
It is incredible. 100% agree.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how the everlasting drama of the shift will continue on, but there's one for your dad who probably is making the argument. Why don't they just bunt? Well, Matt Carpenter did. Greg, anything else in the world of sports we missed, or that you want to talk about? I should say.
No, I'm good. Per usual, I think it was a great pod. I've been out of the sports world. I think Third and Girl and you need to recap the NBA season and talk about the upcoming.
Once the draft happens, we might have to do a pod like that. That'd be fun to do. I have a couple of off-season hockey ideas too that we can discuss off air.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, so it'll be a ton of fun.
Like, share, subscribe, review.
Oh yeah. Follow us, the Bullpen Card, on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Podcoin, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us and get all of our pods, whether it is me and Third and Girl talking basketball, me and Greg talking about hockey, baseball, me and Matty D talking about football, especially with college football previews coming right around the corner. Want to try to get some golf mixed into there too, Greg. Obviously just had the US Open, but want to try to get something like that in. But I'm excited. It's been a pretty awesome year so far. We're obviously almost halfway through 2019. So it's only up from here, or continues to go up from here, I think, for a lot of different fronts. Yeah,
I agree. Sort of baseball becomes number one after the after the two drafts for hockey and basketball, and then free agency for both starts July 1, right? So
July 1. It's kind of July is one of my favorite months of the year, both in sports and personally, since I was born in the month of July and the 4th of July. But you go through free agency right into the MLB All-Star game to the trade deadline, which I think with just a single one this year, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch and see everything come through. So yeah, it's going to be, 2 weeks between July 1st and July 14th, basically right through the All-Star break, are going to be a whirlwind of things to talk about. So make sure you subscribe to us, because we'll have a lot of things to break down.
Yeah, agreed. Awesome.
Alrighty. Well, for my man, Greg Piatelli, thank you as always, by the way. I am the G-Man, Jordy Cannell. Have a great weekend, everybody, and go Phils.
Go Sox.